Welcome to the Flower Prophecies, a podcast exploring all things flower essences and remedies and flower therapy, and how this vibrational plant medicine has the potential to heal and shift our individual and collective health and consciousness. We'll be diving deep into the specifics of individual essences, nature's energetics, emotional healing and growth, as well as hearing client case studies, hosting special guests and professionals, and I'll be sharing my own personal explorations and philosophies channeled straight from the flowers. Through my own unearthing, I have discovered what I believe to be the most profound teaching of the flowers, and I now wish to share with you the practice of alchemizing fear into beauty. Before we get into the episode, I wanted to share with you again about the Blooming, which is a group flower therapy experience. And we will together journey as a collective through 60 plus individual flowers, each one representing a different part of our psyche and our soul, and each one healing a layer deeper within us, and in doing so, gifting us with deeper consciousness. So February's intake is still open until the 31st of January. And within February, we are going to be taking a journey into self-reflection and responsibility. And this as a gateway into choosing the change that we wish to experience in our life and choosing our reality. I have been enjoying the Blooming so much already just in this first month, and it's already evolved from what I thought it would entail. And just as its members are already, it's morphing into something extremely beautiful to witness and to facilitate in this garden. So if you feel called to explore this vibrational medicine in a safe, supported and powerful space, you can join us for February now. Our guest on the podcast today is actually going to be our guest facilitator in the Blooming for February. So we will be having a session with her. And if you would like to sign up, you can head to the link in my bio or below the episode. And yeah, I look forward to meeting you in there. All right. So welcome back to the Flower Prophecies podcast. Today on the podcast, we are interviewing Steph Lianos. I think that's how you say your name, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Of Energia. And Steph is our guest facilitator in the Blooming for February. So she is an energy healer, a psychic channel, and her work is focused greatly around all things frequency, which we love. Steph is definitely an embodiment of what she talks and teaches, and her joyful energy is very, very contagious through what she offers on social media and her podcast. So I'm stoked to have her on the show today and also facilitating in the Blooming this month. Welcome to the podcast, Steph. It's lovely to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. So happy to be here.
Yeah, beautiful. So to kick things off, I'd love to hear from you just a little bit of a, introduction, insight into your work and how you found yourself facilitating in this field.
Yeah. So how did I find myself here? So I worked in a lot of corporate jobs. I worked in the music industry, really fun jobs up until I was about 23. And then something kind of shifted in me where the glitz and the glam of the corporate music industry life, it almost went from being really stimulating to being soul destroying. It's a very, it's a really intense industry to be in. And if you're not absolutely loving it, it's kind of rips your soul apart, to be honest. And I had this deeper knowing that I wanted to help people, but I had no idea what that looked like. And I was only 23 at the time. So that was about 10 years ago. And I was thinking maybe I'll do psychology, or maybe I was looking for more of like a traditional route because that's all that felt like accessible to me at the time. But then I kind of got lost along the way, worked at a cafe, went back into the music industry where I literally had the worst year and a half of my life, to the point where the universe was like, you cannot do this anymore. I had this boss from hell, and it was just like, I really had to kind of like review my whole life at that point and think, okay, this is not where I want to be. Where do I go? So I like randomly became a personal trainer for 4 years, which I turned out to be really good at, but like so random. Like anyway, my soul just said, go and do this. And it felt like the most like accessible change of industry from where I was at. Yeah. So I became a personal trainer, managed like a really beautiful gym, and it was really nice, and felt that really sense of community and helping people. And I started realizing that I had this like really beautiful, empathetic sense to me. And I wanted to like explore that more. And then one of my clients at the gym, she was a practicing kinesiologist, and she's like, hey, come in for a session. I do this thing called kinesiology. And I was like, oh, what the hell is that? And then I did one session and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to do this. This is my life path. So 2 years later, I enrolled to study kinesiology. And then that kind of opened everything up for me. I was always like quite like spiritual, like quote unquote spiritual, but this studying that modality was like almost like a remembering for me. Like as soon as I started it, like I was really, really good at it. Like everything came naturally to me. It was just like, it was almost like I had done this before in another life, which I definitely had in a different way. And that kind of opened all these doors for me of like realizing that I'm quite psychic and really intuitive, and I could like see and feel and energy in people and in surroundings. And that's pretty much where that door kind of opened. And then I didn't end up finishing my course. I studied for 18 months. And then I kind of realized that that wasn't where I was meant to go. I was meant to like take what had unfolded through all the studying and then apply it in my own way, which is when I created my own like modality of energy healing and intuitive work, and then kind of opened up to channeling and psychic work. And like it's just evolved into like this really beautiful blooming. I'll add that word in here, which it was like that. And then it's just kept evolving. And the more that I do, the longer that I've done it, the more I've remembered how to do. And I've just kind of created my own like business and like modality and practices out of that based on, I don't know, lifetimes of being a healer, it feels like. So where I am now compared to where the journey started is like super different, but it's just been a really intuitive unfolding that I've almost just gone along for the ride for. Like I never thought that I would be like doing this sort of work when I first started doing kinesiology. So yeah, it's been really beautiful.
That's lovely. Because you talk about having like that sort of sense of like wanting to help people from even when you're working in the music industry, do you feel like you had within all of your previous jobs and pursuits, you were still doing that role within them where you're like helping people, whether that be like the person that people come to talk to and sort of like lean on or whatever it may be?
Definitely after about the age of 26, I would say that really kicked in. When I was working, when I was 23 and I made that realization, what I started feeling was like I was doing this stuff and I was like, this is so pointless in the scheme of life. Like, you know, making sure a Facebook post had to go up at 11 a.m. for some like, you know, event or like festival that I was organizing. And I'm like, you know, and then getting in trouble when the post didn't go up at 11 a.m. And I was like, what is this?
Like I put it up at 11:11.
But yeah, exactly. I wanted to work with the angel numbers, but it was just like I looked at the work I was doing and I felt like in the scheme of like the world, this is so fucking insignificant to me, might be significant to other people.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, well, maybe I feel like if I was helping people and I was making a difference, then I would feel more fulfilled. So at first it was a sense of chasing fulfillment, but like at that age, I was such a fucking hot mess. I don't think anyone would ever come to me for advice. But then as I evolved and got older, I did start really taking on that that role of like the friend everyone would go to, and people would always bounce off me for advice and things like that. So that it definitely began to develop for sure through like my mid-20s.
Yeah. Beautiful. I can definitely resonate with that. Like when you're younger and you're working for other people in different careers, and it just being like, why am I here? Like, this is not for me.
Yeah. And
like, how does everyone else like deal with just doing this on the job?
I know. I couldn't believe it. Like, I had this moment when I was working at this like music label at around like 25 or 26. And I was on set for a music video of like a pretty like well-known artist. And I'd been on set for 16 hours, and I'm thinking, what am I doing? I'm working so hard for this artist to make more money and success in their life, but like I'm just like schlepping it out here. And like no amount of money can make, or like salary can make me feel better about spending 16 hours on set for an artist that like wasn't even at their own music video. Like all this work was being done for them. And I couldn't comprehend it. That's when I had that big moment that I was like, no, fuck this. I need to make money for myself and like be fulfilled in a way that makes sense to me.
Yeah. Definitely. So agree with that. So agree. Yeah. It's funny. Like I started my first business at like 21 to try and just like get out of like working for other people. And I've barely worked for someone since. I just can't do it.
Yeah, I get it. Some people are born for it because they've like, you know, I mean, everyone has a different place in this world, but I think for a lot of people now, there's this really deep desire to like have that freedom that comes with being your own boss.
Yeah, absolutely. Beautiful. Well, I love that. And you've obviously just fallen into such like, obviously, like you say, you've been in this realm and in this healing realm for lifetimes. And it's so clearly just so natural to you. So it's beautiful to watch.
Oh, thank you.
Something that obviously you speak a lot is that we're all energy and everything is energy. And my audience would know this because I talk about this all the time as well. And I would love if you could share when sort of this truth landed for you and how this has now directed your life and your journey and your work.
Oh, yeah, this is such a multi-layered question because
Totally.
I feel like the more that you go into it, like the more you learn, the more you understand. Like I have been studying this for, I would say I'm about to turn 32, so like 7, 8 years now. And I'm at a point now where I finally have grasped onto like really deeper concepts of this that I couldn't have grasped a few years ago. But I think the way I really realized that it was that I was creating my reality is I used to, when I was like in my early 20s, get stuck in like really deep overthinking loops, like catastrophizing, like bad things happening or things that I was worried about. And I would lock onto them and I would think and think and think and think and think. And then the exact thing that I was thinking about would happen.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, like, I thought about that thing and then that thing is unfolding. And the time that really clicked it to me is like, I was going through a bit of a shitty breakup and I made up some story in my head that like my ex-partner would start dating this girl. They don't even have it was just this stupid anxiety thing. Yeah. And I got so stuck in it and then it fucking happened. Like, and I just was like, oh my God, like this is a thing, like this is real. Yeah. So that was the first learning. And then ever since then, it's been growing and building to the point where like, I really understand now that whatever we think about most consistently is going to happen. And so I really try and live my life by constantly either thinking about what I do want or just trying to be so present in the moment that I allow anything to happen from that place. But yeah, it's pretty wild when you begin like tapping into the essence of like the understanding that you create your reality because you see it unfold in front of you, like crazy.
And so within your sort of life now, when you find yourself going into like one of those loops that used to occur and you create those stories, what is your practice now to sort of reframe and sort of step out of that and away from that?
I've got a few. I think when it was quite intense, because like just a bit of background, like schizophrenia runs through the female side of my family, and so intrusive thoughts is something I always used to struggle with, and I didn't realize that they were intrusive thoughts until I was in my 20s. So when it was really bad, and I would get in the spirals and the paranoia and like feel this like intense overthinking in my mind, I would have like a pre-recorded like track I would listen to of like a teacher that I really respect, or my own voice, and I would almost drown out my thoughts with something that was really high vibrational. So I find that to be really helpful. And then and I realized that the spirals are almost like habitual. So if the spirals happened, it was about like stopping them as quick as possible through distracting myself or drowning it out with something in my ears, something else. And then that habit began to stop. Now I'm like way more like, I rarely go down these spirals anymore, because it's just like not even worth it to me. I just am really disciplined about it. But I if it happens now, I have like energetic anchor statements that I'll say to myself. So if it begins going, if I begin worrying about something, my anchor statement straight away is everything always works out for me. Everything always works out for me. Everything always works out for me. I'll like repeat it like 100 times until that thought process has been interrupted enough that it no longer exists. So it's like distraction, pivot, and then listen to something that's really inspiring, or listen to a recording of my own voice doing affirmations, or find something to laugh at. That I find that to be really distracting. So they're all like kind of distraction techniques, which really help in the moment, because it's really just a lot of overthinking. It's like, it's very habitual, it's just a habit that we need to stop doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And my audience would sort of know this. I've spoken about it a little bit, like the power of language. And this is sort of really what you're talking about when you're talking about those anchor statements and those affirmations that you start repeating. So it's like our language and our words have a frequency to them of their own. And this is what sort of like brings you back to that different vibration. Can you expand on that a little bit with how you work with that?
Yeah. So I preach this like so much. My friends almost like hate it, because every time they speak about themselves in a disempowering way, I'm like, do not speak like that. So I always say to my audience and to my clients, your words are spells. Everything you say has the power to empower you or disempower you. I try not to think about it in terms of vibrational sense, even though it is vibrational, but I like the words empower or disempower, because I feel like it gives a little bit more your control over it. It's like a nicer word to use. So pretty much in any situation that we're in our life, we can either speak words that are going to make us feel better, or speak words that are going to make us feel worse. We can use words that tell the same shit story all over again, or we can use words that begin to create a new story. So like on my Instagram, I have this post and it's like, 30 things you can say other than I can't afford it. And I just say this to everyone so much. It's like, every time you say a word, you're reinforcing an energy. Do you want that? Is that energy going to be empowering to you or disempowering? And I don't think people realize how many words we speak a day, and how every one of those words is keeping you stuck or moving you forward. Now, how do you move yourself forward? You choose words intentionally that are open, empowering. You don't have to pretend you like the situation that you're in, or you don't have to like lie to yourself. But there is always an open-ended, empowering way that you can speak about everything. And the more that you speak that into existence, the more that your situation will change. The one that people, the thing that I hear the most and is like, it's like, I have no money, I can't afford it. And people say this over and over and over again. It's like, you saying that or something like that in any kind of area of your life, you're just reinforcing where you don't want to be. So pick a new way to talk about it that is, this is not in alignment right for me right now, but I can't wait until it is. I've noticed that I'm just prioritizing different things right now. So when I'm ready to prioritize this, I'm going to. Like, it's a practice that definitely takes some practice at first. Like, you got to be really conscious of it. But once you begin changing the way you speak, it kind of gives you a whole new air and energy. And therefore you begin to see little things in your life really beginning to shift and change.
Yeah. And it's so true. It's so noticeable as well. And it almost like becomes like fun. Like, it's like a game, because it's like the more you can do it and implement it and create that habit and that practice of it, like it is so noticeable when things start to shift. And it's like, well, then it's just like, why not do it more? Like, see what else I can shift and I can create.
Definitely. And like, you feel so much better. Like, would you rather say, I can't afford it, or, oh, that looks like really interesting, I'm really looking forward to, and that's a priority for me. Like, that in itself feels so much more empowering. Or when we talk about our bodies or just anything, it's like our words and our thoughts are the most accessible vibrational adjustments that we can make. They're the things we have the most control over. And when you begin to master that, you're tapping into a level of deliberate creation that has not previously been possible for you. And I think it's beautiful to have a conversation or be in a conversation with people where everyone is speaking in empowered terms, and the conversation actually raises your vibration, rather than sitting in conversation and, whining and moaning and like seeing things in a disempowering light, because you actually walk away from that conversation feeling worse.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like so easy, like you say, to get stuck in a loop. As soon as you make a statement that is disempowering, your mind attaches to that, and you just go further and further into it. I mean, that's what happens for me. Like, I find myself so easily spiraling from like one little thing if I like actually make that statement that's disempowering. Like,
definitely. Well, the law of attraction is just giving you more of what you're thinking. So Abraham Hicks, one of my favorite channelers, it's Esther Hicks, she's channeling Abraham. She speaks to this point where it's like, it takes 17 seconds for the law of attraction to match your thought with a similar thought. So when people are spiraling, it's like, think about how long we spiral for, a minute, 2 minutes, and then it becomes like fucking out of control. Well, the law of attraction is going, okay, here's another thought. That's the same frequency. Here's another thought, then another thought, and another thought. Yeah. And, at the end of 10 minutes, you're like, what is my life? Like, who am I? But the same works the other way. Yes. So if you're like, I'm accepting this, I know it's going to change, I know it's going to shift, and you hold that thought, then another 17 seconds and you get a better thought and a better thought and a better thought. So it works both ways.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love knowing that. I didn't know that 17 seconds was the sort of time frame of that. And I feel like that's actually like going to help me now be like, okay, I've got 17 seconds here. Like, can I shift this into something?
Yeah. Like, think about something for 10 seconds, but just don't give it any more, And I began like kind of practicing this in my life. And rather than practicing it on like disempowering thoughts, when I felt really good about something, or I was having a really good time or eating a really good meal, or I was just feeling good, I would hold that thought for 17 seconds, and I would feel my vibration get higher and higher and higher. And I'm like, wow, there's actually something to this that I didn't at first. I was like, yeah, whatever, 17 seconds. Yeah. But it's actually, it's actually super powerful, and it actually really lands.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Oh, so good. So like, you're obviously, like we can see right now and hear, you're a very energetic and vital person. And this is, evident through all that you do, your social media and your podcast and all of your platforms. And I've also heard you talk about in human design that you are a reflector. And so I don't know if this is quite right, but for anyone listening, I think this means that you take in and reflect the energy of the people and the environment around you.
Yeah.
Which I assume could make it quite difficult to come back into your own authentic sort of essence and energy a lot of the time. So could you share a little bit about your process of learning to tune into and be with your own energy, and then how you utilize this gift in the work that you do?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, being a reflector is it's a really interesting experience, because until I found out that's what I was in human design, I only found out maybe about 2.5 years ago. I was confused as to why I felt like I had 37 different personalities. Like I would wake up each day and I would say this every morning: what personality do I want to have today? Because I felt so transient with who I was.
Yeah.
And now that I am aware of this, I think that understanding when I feel good, that is my energy. If I feel disconnected or like confused or scattered in my mind, I know that I'm either telling someone else's story in someone else's energy, or making a decision or thoughts that don't come from like my authentic soul blueprint. And I mean, there's a couple of things that I do. I definitely spend a lot of time alone, like way more time alone than I used to. And that has been really beautiful and helpful. And I am really careful about the information I take in. I only listen to certain podcasts. As soon as I listen to or hear something that doesn't feel good in my body, I'll turn it off, because that is like my reflector mirror sense saying, we're sampling this energy and we don't like it. And just being really cautious with that. Like the other day, I like unfollowed every person I follow on Instagram because I needed more clarity with my business. And I was just getting so overwhelmed by everyone else. So I like needed to create that space. I also like do a lot of like energy clearing practices. I meditate a lot. It's just taken a bit of back and forth practice in like realizing what it feels like when I'm in my own energy and what it feels like when I'm in someone else's energy. But it's such an immediate thing where like someone will be talking to me and they'll say something that worked for them with their business. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I should do that as well. And then I go home and I'm like, no, that's not right for me. And I think just like being really intentional about like who I spend my time with and the way that my home is set up, because for reflectors, like our physical environment is really important as well. And now that we've moved to Byron, like in Sydney, I felt really, even though we lived in a beautiful place near the beach, it didn't feel right to me. But now that we've landed in Byron, in our new place, I feel more myself than ever. So also just being in the right physical environment. I know that it's not always in everyone's control where they live, but it is to a degree in a way. But making the intention to change physical environment if you're really beginning to feel not connected to where you're at.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know if it obviously sounds similar, but I don't know if there's some aspects to it that are different of being, say, like a reflector and being just like a very highly sensitive, empathetic person. Do you think there's much difference between the two?
I think that no. I mean, I don't know, because I wouldn't say I'm highly sensitive in the way that like I'm sensitive energetically. Like as soon as I meet someone, I mean, I guess it's because I'm quite psychic as well. I like know their whole life story. And as soon as I go into a room, I'm like, that person's happy, that person's angry. Like I just make these assessments, like you can feel it. But I know that sometimes with HSP, with highly sensitive people, they're actually quite sensitive emotions wise. And I'm not really emotionally sensitive. Like I'm a Capricorn moon.
Yeah.
So I'm like pretty like, fucking
Yeah.
logical.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I feel sad or I am happy.
Interesting, because I guess I would sort of say that I'm quite a highly sensitive, empathetic person. But then when I hear you talking about being a reflector, it's more like taking on like the how would you say, like the states that they're in, or the I don't really know how to explain it.
Yeah, no, it is that. It's like, for example, I have a friend who is like the most how do I explain it? Like if I think about me, I'm like, a surfer, like beach vibe, but also like kind of bougie, like I blend in between the two. But then I have a friend who's like very well put together, clean cut, like lives in the city, like, and then when I hang out with her, I'm like, or when I speak to her, I get this sense of like, oh my God, I just want to, have perfect hair and wear makeup every day and like be this like really clean cut. And you actually take on that person's like state and personality like it's yours. And then when you go back into your energy, you're like, wait, what the fuck? Like what? So it's this sense of like, I mold into the people that I hang around fully. And like when I was a kid and I was in high school, I used to feel so, I guess, sad because I didn't know who I was. And like that girl was like this and this girl was like that. So I would try and like mold into them, but then it wasn't my authentic self. So yeah. And I think the commonality between highly sensitive people is, say like you're with someone and they're upset, you really feel that energy as well. So it's definitely been a bit of a ride as a reflector. Sometimes I try not to over identify or like limit myself with the like the different term. But it's definitely a thing. It's definitely affects the way I live my life. And I'm trying to really lean into the strengths of it, which is what I was trying to say, more than like over identifying with like the weaknesses that people say that reflectors have.
Yeah, for sure. So how would you then use those sort of strengths within the work that you do?
Yeah. So I guess like, because I'm a channel, like tuning and being a reflector, like just tuning into like non-physical energy and like spirits and angels and, being able to speak to people who've crossed over, like that's very reflector-esque.
Yeah.
So highly attuned to, like I said, non-physical energy. And that works for my business because when I work with clients, I'm very good at just being able to tune into them energetically, know what's going on. Like it comes very naturally to me. So I use that with all my clients.
Yeah.
And then I just guess like it works for me being around so many people because it's easy for me to just mold into like a gel with people. Yeah. Because I can just shift and adjust my energy and my personality to like really be in that situation.
Yeah.
And yeah, I feel like just in this line of work, being really tuned in to the non-physical, especially as an energy healer, it's just easy. It's just effortless. I almost feel like I can speak to non-physical energy more, like at the same that I could talk to like a person in a way.
I love that.
Yeah, it's pretty wild, actually.
That's beautiful. What's my non-speaking energy saying to you?
Oh, you have like the sweetest, most beautiful open energy, and I just love it. I would describe it as like a sunflower.
Oh, cute. Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah, it's really nice.
I love that you chose a flower.
Yeah. It's all your Cancerian energy that you have.
Yes, me double Cancer, which makes me so emotional.
Yes, seriously.
That's so funny. I definitely, because I will go into like a room and be like, feel the energy, like the emotional energy, and be like, take that on, and find that hard to like, you have to have those boundaries up to that, because that's when, like, rather than taking on like the personality and like the state they're in, it's more like their emotions. So
totally. And it's really full on. And I feel like the more that we kind of evolve in our gifts and more people are aware of like non-physical energy, it's a real thing. Like you've got to know where your boundaries are. You've got to like be really strong in your own power and actually like say no. Because I think sometimes when people are highly sensitive or empathetic, it's almost like they lose control over their own sovereign energy, and really being in charge of that and like owning that is really important. So you don't suck in everyone's stuff.
Absolutely. And I think, yeah, it is a practice of the more you understand that, and the more like it all intertwines with learning that everything is energy. And the more you understand that emotions are energy and that you can take them on so easily, especially if you're a highly sensitive or a reflector or whatever it may be. Because a lot of the people that I work with personally are highly sensitive or empathetic people. And like, yeah, when you have that shift in realization and perspective of it, like it becomes so much easier to just navigate life because you just know what you need to do for yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like also it comes from like deciding to the degree of which you're going to identify with it.
Yeah,
because
absolutely. Yeah,
we're in control. Like you can say, I'm really empathetic, I take on everyone's energy, or it's like I have this beautiful aspect to my personality where I'm quite empathetic, but I get to choose when, where, and who I utilize that with.
Yes.
So we actually have the power to choose
Yes.
how we're gonna use it.
Absolutely. And yeah, that's something that actually, without like consciously realizing that's what I've done, but that's something that's shifted for me as well, is like releasing, like being like almost like a victim to it, like a victim of like being highly sensitive. So then you're like, you can't do this or you can't do that. And instead take it as like no, I am, but I know what I can do. And like this enables me to do this more or whatever it may be, you know? So
definitely. And it's kind of fun. Like, I don't know, sometimes my boyfriend hates this, but like when I'm out somewhere and I like, and I just, the energy shifts and I don't like it anymore. I'm like, I'm going home. I can't be here. And my boyfriend's like, what the hell? And I'm like, well, yeah, this is just who I am. And I love it. So I
love it. So you also obviously speak a lot about following your intuition and being soul led in what you do. So this is also really resonant to me in my journey that I've had. So I'd love if you could expand on the importance and the practice of this for yourself.
It actually really speaks to my life right now. I just believe, and we're not conditioned this way in the society that we live in. So it's definitely not easy, but I think that our soul like knows best, and that if more people like just waited to hear what their soul was saying rather than acting on what they think they should be doing or what society says is right or what the ego thinks is safe, then, you know, I think everyone would be like a lot happier and a lot more aligned. And for me, I do it so often in my business where like as soon as something doesn't feel fun anymore or doesn't feel good, I will stop doing it. Obviously in the way that honors the people who I'm working with or anything like that. But I just think that if something doesn't feel good, it's not aligned with our soul. So why would we do it? Our soul has been living through thousands, if not more lifetimes, and our mind has only been here for this lifetime. So who's more right? You know, it's always going to be your soul. And like, just recently, a couple of weeks ago, like I closed down a part of my business, which was a membership, because it no longer felt like it was fulfilling my soul and like the needs of the collective. So I made, even though that's a source of income, even though there was people in it, I just had to follow that intuitive nudge and move forward with it. And then my intuition is telling me right now, like, don't make any business decisions, just enjoy life, just have fun, just do what feels good. And my mind is like, well, what do you mean, dude? Like, we're not going to make any business decisions. And it's taken me a couple of days to like decondition from what my mind is saying, but my soul and my intuition are just like, just cruise for a bit. So I'm just following that because it really feels really good. It definitely something that takes practice. Like, I'm not just saying to everyone, like, just, you know, dysregulate your nervous system and do whatever you want. But I truly feel and believe that we did not come into this earth to do some stuff we don't want to do. We came here to enjoy life and to expand and to and to evolve. And we don't evolve by getting stuck in the patterns of like our egoic mind. We don't evolve by just doing what feels safe. We don't evolve by making fear-based decisions. Like I could have easily made like 7 kind of fear-based decisions over the past few days, but like I'm not doing it. If everything is energy and my vibration controls my life, why would I be in a situation that doesn't feel good? That's only going to lower my vibration. So I trust my intuition now over everything. It's definitely taken me some time to get here, but I just think that like we're in this lifetime and our soul has never had the opportunity to speak to us so strongly as it has in this lifetime, where healing and energy and talking to, you know, the non-physical energy is so prominent. Like we now have the opportunity to hear our souls louder than ever. And there are more people following their souls and showing how easy and beautiful it can be when you do. So why the fuck not just take a chance? You know, just do an experiment. Like, what if I just only did what felt good for 6 months? Like, what would happen? Like, you know, like that's kind of how I feel at the moment. And feels pretty good, to be honest.
I love that. I love that so much. It's so funny because I am someone who like, I've had, maybe 4 businesses over the last 10 years. And, it's funny because everyone's always commenting to me, oh, what are you doing now? Oh, I just love that you go from one thing to the next and the next and the next.
Yeah.
And then at the start, I was like, almost like taking it as like taking it in the wrong way of like they think I'm like choppy and changey. But now I'm like, yeah, I do, because like I just follow what lights me up. Like I just do what lights me up. I don't continue doing something if it's not for me.
Exactly. And like, who says that society is right? You know, just because like what is mainstream is so prominent, like it's not right. It's not right. Like there is no such thing of right or wrong. It doesn't exist. Like the only thing that is right is what feels good to you. So that I love that. Like we didn't only come here to do one thing. Like the age of people staying in one job for like 25, 30 years is so dead. Yeah. Like it's just when you open your mind and like unplug from the literal pre-controlled matrix, you realize that like nothing is real except what you believe to be true. So believe that you feeling good is why you came onto this earth. And when you feel good and when you follow your bliss and follow what lights you up, when you align the right energy, you will be rewarded in ways you can't imagine. But you have to be able to decondition from what society tells you. And like that obviously does take some practice. But once you're there, like it's so empowering.
Absolutely. This is just my my regular conversation with my Taurus husband about that he doesn't have to be a mechanic for the rest of his life.
My partner's a Taurus as well. So much Taurus in the chart. And when we moved, he like uplifted his whole life for me. And now that he's experiencing new things, he's like, wow, this is so cool. But I get it. For the Taurus, especially men, they will do the same thing for 45 years and just love it because it's so safe. You know, Taurus, sign of stability and safety. So I understand that.
I've got his like mind like going other places already, but like he's still physically in the one place.
Yeah. When my partner met me and I was like, don't work so much. Like, what are you doing? Like work less, like whatever. And he's just like, who is this woman who has come into my life and made me question everything that I thought was right?
Yeah, totally. Oh, so funny.
I feel that so deeply.
So I would love to know what is one thing you would suggest others to implement into their days to create the energetic state and environment that they really wish to be in and desire to be in.
Yep. So I would say firstly begin with finding resources or a teacher that that speaks to this in a way that really aligns with you and lights you up. Because I think that the support and then getting into like the nuance of it is quite important. So I love Joe Dispenza. I also love listening to Esther Hicks, Channel Abraham. I mean, there's so many people. They're my two that I love the most. Wayne Dwyer is really good as well. There's so many good teachers. Find a teacher that you like. And when I say teacher, the reason I talk about these more like well-established and maybe older teachers is because they started teaching this before social media got the whole energy, frequency, and conversation really confusing. And they talk about it in a way that's like very like straight to the point, no fluff. They're not trying to like sell you like a program or anything. It's kind of just like old school onto it. So I love them.
Yeah.
And then the first place to start is with awareness. Become aware of the way you think, become aware of the way you speak, understand the way that you're contributing to your own reality, and then step by step, begin looking for thoughts that feel better and for words that feel better, and don't judge yourself when you go backwards. That's all that you can do, because the better you feel, the higher frequency that you're in. So if you're noticing that you're maybe very disempowering to yourself, feeling bad about that is not going to support you. I always say to my clients, if you want a summarized version of the law of attraction and of energy, if you feel good, milk the shit out of it. See if you can take that feeling good for the whole day. And if you don't feel good, search for the thought that feels better in that moment. It's okay. I know this is temporary. I'm going to get through this. Everything always works out for me. That's it. That's as simple as it gets. And fill your life with the frequency of resources that uplifts you, and that will create a nice starting point for sure.
Yeah, beautiful. I love that. Well, I was going to ask you sort of, because our theme for the blooming for February that you're going to be sort of guest facilitating in as well, and the remedy we're working with is all things self-reflection and responsibility, and how our stories and our language create our realities. But I guess we've already sort of covered that quite a lot. But is there anything else you'd love to add to that?
Yeah, I definitely would say if it feels overwhelming, just start with the area of your life that feels like that you want to change the most, and start with those thoughts and those words, and just begin there.
Yeah.
Don't try and
do it all at once.
Just say, okay, in terms of my career, I would really like this to shift the most. Yeah. So I'm going to look at the way I talk about it now. I'm going to look at the way I think about it, and I'm going to begin shifting that language to something that's more empowering. Start there. And I mean, the other practice that I would really recommend helping with this, especially if someone is an overthinker, is to begin a meditative practice where you sit down for 10, 15 minutes and find like a sound to focus on, and just focus your awareness there, just for the process of allowing thoughts to kind of slip away. Because when we have no thought, we have no resistance. And the more that you can create periods in your day of little to no thought, the generally easier it's going to be for you to find more inner peace and therefore contribute to your vibration. So don't try and do it all at once. Don't overwhelm yourself. Pick what feels easy and just play around with it. Any shift upwards is better than no shift at all.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I love it. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
No worries.
So I'd also love to ask you if you personally, because obviously you were in the world of kinesiology for a little while, and you obviously work with energy and, you utilizing tools for that and your state of energy a lot. So have you ever used flower essences, or if you have, what has been your experience with them, and how have you found them impact you?
Yeah, I've used them heaps. Use them for myself, use them on clients. And I just found that I found it to be like a very sacred, like ritual. Like it's such a beautiful thing knowing that you're putting something into your body that has such a high frequency. I actually haven't used any for ages, because I guess because I'm not playing with them as much as I used to. But I've definitely prescribed them to a lot of clients. And also one other thing that we used to use a lot in kinesiology was these like flower essence cards.
Yes, I've got them.
Use the New Zealand flower essence cards.
Okay.
And in a session, so these cards are actually infused with the same frequency that you could use in the actual drops.
Yeah.
So I would muscle test the clients to find out what flower essence card they needed. And then actually we would hold them in different spots while getting their eyes to focus in different parts of their eye. So like top left, middle left, bottom left. Yeah. And that actually infused that vibration into different parts of the brain. So I used the cards so much because I was predominantly an online facilitator. And I still use those cards like oracle cards now. I'll if I need something, that my body needs something, I'll pick one or muscle test and then do that same process.
I love that. Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that a lot of my clients have had just really beautiful improvements and upgrades with using flower essences. I think that they're amazing.
They are. And like you said, they are a very sacred practice, and it kind of just adds that almost moment of presence to your day when you're taking them morning and night. It actually allows you to stop and be really intentional about what you're doing, even if it's just for 10 seconds. I always supply an affirmation to go with the flower essence. So it's really just this small moment in time that allows you to actually stop, where maybe previously you didn't stop at all for the whole day, right? And so it's
exactly
that ritual added, and it even though it's so short and quick, it makes such a difference to your day. And then obviously the effects of their balancing effects and release works wonders as well.
Yeah. And I think that it's good for people that need something tangible on their healing journey, because the actual process of putting it in your mouth and feeling it kind of enter your body, it's really good as someone who, just needs something a little bit more than just energy work. It's very, it's very accessible, which I love.
Yeah, definitely. And I actually, talking on self-reflection and talking on responsibility, I think it actually allows the person to put their wellness and their health and well-being in their own into their own hands, taking responsibility for it, because they're the one that actually has to do the action and do the tangible action of taking that remedy every day. And so it's it actually allows them to start to take responsibility for their own health and to learn that they are a part of it, and not just seeking it outside of themselves and thinking someone else is going to fix you and then come back and you're all fixed.
Yeah, I actually really love that as well. And it's holding, because the accountability piece is really important as well in all of this, holding yourself accountable to take the drops when you said that you were going to take them and everything like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Oh, beautiful. So I actually just have one last question for you today, Steph, and that is, what do you believe the world needs most at the time we're in?
Oh my God, so many things.
Just a small question.
Yeah, I think that we need more people to be in their own heart and soul and follow that calling, and therefore cultivate more inner peace within them, so that begins to ripple out into the world. I think more people need to decondition from societal beliefs and imprints and find their inner voice. And when, people are in their inner voice and in their heart and in their soul, it just creates such a beautiful frequency. And if our whole world existed on that frequency, I think we would be living in a very new earth.
Definitely. Beautiful. Beautiful. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I look forward to connecting with you in the Blooming in February, in a couple of weeks' time. And in the meantime, where can everyone find you and your offerings?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at Energia with 4 underscores. And then also on my podcast, the Energia podcast. And as for offerings, I am no offerings at the moment. I am just living my best life. And yeah, offerings probably soon when it feels good. But yeah, I'm just focusing on sharing words at the moment through my podcast and on Instagram.
Yeah, and in saying that, I believe, you have so many offerings like on your Instagram and on your podcast that you can share with people that they can learn from,
Yes, so exactly.
A lot there for people to sort of take away.
Yeah, fully.
Beautiful. Well, thank you everyone for joining in. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. And if you would like to find myself on Instagram, it is at the Flower Prophecies. And if you'd like to find any of my flower therapy offerings, you can head to at Heka Healing Flower Therapy or hekahealing.com.au. And I'll be back next week. Thank you so much.